What's going on, everyone? This is Brian Turner here with the No Stress Midwest podcast. We are in season 7, focused on professional players, professional athletes, what it takes to get there, what does it take to stay there, what does it take to succeed at that level. Um, Today's episode, we're lucky enough to be joined by Mr. Wilson Harris. Wilson, how is it going?
What's up, Brian? Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Nah, for sure, man. So Wilson, how is Louisville? Tell me about just your experience there so far.
It's a special place. I think everyone that's come here and experienced it really enjoys it. Whether you're coming to watch a game or just chill in the city, it's a pretty special place. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to be here on my third year right now, so I'm really enjoying it. Can't say enough.
How's the Kentucky Derby been? Did you run into Drake, Jackson,
That
did you run into
yeah.
Drewski, any of those guys, Giancarlo?
My first year, I saw Drake, Jack, and Drewski actually.
Did
They had their own
Look at
little
that.
section.
Were you up there just chilling with them, just super cash?
Nah, they invited me, but I couldn't
Yeah,
make
you couldn't leave the
it.
boys, right? No, yeah. I respect that.
No, that's a great weekend. I always tell people like you got to come out for Derby. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's so much fun.
Okay, so before we kind of go back into time a bit, Louisville, you're there now. You're playing USL Championship, absolute baller. But you also, I don't know if people knew this. At one point, I believe it committed to University of Louisville to play. So, is there a connection to that city? Are you from there? Do you have family there, or you just knew you were
No,
gonna derby it?
yeah, it's kind of just a crazy coincidence. I was before I was with KC, I committed my junior year. I was still living in LA. I
Hmm.
committed to U of L. And the head coach at that time was Ken Lola, and he suggested I try out for Sporting because they were looking for a striker. And I went and trained with Sporting's U18s, and it just kind of clicked. So I really liked the environment.
Yeah. Was
And
Roomba was there? Was that your coach when you got
yeah,
there in the 18s? Yeah.
awesome guy, and
Yep.
he helped me really kind of take that first step towards being a pro. So
Yeah.
I think after that, unfortunately for U of L, I just loved it in KC and I sticking around. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
I
it was
mean, but that's the reality of the game now in America is I feel like if you're good enough to go pro, you go pro, right? And no
yeah.
disrespect to Division 1 athletes because there are a ton of ballers that are playing Division 1, but I
Mhm.
feel like in most cases, unless you deep down want to go to college, you want to get the education, you're alum, your parents went to Notre Dame or Duke or something,
Mhm.
you get a MLS club knocking on the door saying, "Hey, we want you and we want you now."
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I think when I first signed, it was a bit more of a risk at that time.
for sure.
But
Yeah.
nowadays, you can see like on social media, there's people hyping up kids when they're young, playing in MLS academies. Like
Captain Sullivan, right? It's a
yeah,
big one,
exactly.
right?
Those guys aren't going to college.
No.
They're
Now
going to
it's
sign early.
it's funny to hear you say back in my day when you're when,
Back
when
in
you're
my day.
24, but it just shows though, but it just shows how much the game has grown in such a short period of time,
No, it's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
It was still DA. There wasn't the
Mhm.
MLS next. There wasn't, Sporting too. Where you're probably there with Swope Park Rangers,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
OG playing in the
exactly.
USL Championship, you
Yeah, no,
know?
I don't even know how the MLS Next works. I've been out of the loop, but it seems like a good program, really competitive, and like the
Yeah.
kids. I know that all the kids there want to go pro for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
So
So Wilson, we've kind of jumped a little ahead into the game. But let's take it back a step. All
hmm.
right. So for the people who don't know who Wilson Harris is, I heard he has a nickname called Chilson Harris. I don't know if that's something that sticks with you or if that's something you take on. Or if that's just the folklore I hear
I
around the
got, yeah,
state.
they call me Chili, Chilson. I think it's just I'm from LA and in Louisville now, and the guys are kind of riffing off of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of stuck in the locker room.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
Chilson
like it.
Harris, 6 years pro, right? You signed
Hmm.
at 18. I
Yep.
honestly think it might have been like October or something. Um, October 2018,
Yeah, it
Sporting
might be.
2. What what was that moment like, right? You're not from Kansas City.
Hmm.
So like what was that moment like when you signed on that line like, hey, I am officially a professional soccer player?
Yeah, I just felt like I had toured U of L that year, and I just didn't feel like college was necessarily for me at the time. And I was really enjoying training with uh, Swope and some trainings with the first team as well. So I was
Hmm.
kind of just a young kid, just excited about that. And but also I was trying to be as realistic as I could. And I started getting games with Swope, and I was like, if I work hard enough, I think I can, make something out of this. And I could have went to college and done that route and still try to go pro, but I just decided to do that, and I think it's been a good decision for
It's
me
paid
personally.
off. It'd be a
Yeah.
lot more difficult for you to be the youngest player to 50 and 60 goals in the championship had you have spent that time at U of L, right?
Yeah, no,
Um,
100%.
yeah, so I said you signed your first pro contract at 18 with the Sporting second team,
Mhm.
first MLS contract 2020,
Mhm.
right? Then the homegrown player, or you're a homegrown player then. You've been
Mhm.
USL Young Player of the Year in that same year.
Mhm.
Friggin' USL Championship Player of the Month. So you've hit some heights, some peaks that some professional athletes beg to get a chance, right? So with all of that that's going on, we know how to find the back of the net. What do you contribute to that success, that mindset, that goal scoring mindset?
Mhm.
Because being a forward and being a striker are two different positions, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
what do you
100%.
talk to us about that mindset?
Yeah, I think you have to have that hunger within you, you know, every training one and then finally doing it in games. I think that was the biggest thing for me as I was coming up younger. It was, okay, I started to do it in training, and I wanted to, score every training, kind of have go into training with something to prove and a goal to work on, So, and then I made some goals for myself in the regular season, and I was just kind of chasing that as well. So I think for me is setting goals and really working hard to get that, but also simplifying my craft, not overcomplicating it. I'm a striker. As people maybe don't want to say, but we are judged by our stats, and I think that is something you shouldn't be afraid of. It's something you should embrace, and it's yeah, I just try and attack every game like, let's get a goal.
Yeah. Well, and you're judged by your stats and
Mhm.
really as a striker, there's only one stat you're judged by, right?
Yeah.
And it's how many times is the other team taking the ball out the back of the net.
Hmm.
Um, and to be in such good form for so long, right? I think it speaks to not only physically, but that's a mindset, right? That's a mentality as well. And you say you create your own personal goals for each season before each training, before each game, right? And
Yep.
I think that's something big that I hope a lot of young listeners are listening to is, okay, let me set my own goal, not what coach says that the team goal is, but what is my goal? I want to complete all of my passes. I want to get 10 shots on target. I want to score 5 times each training. I
Mhm.
don't want to F up once, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
whatever that is.
exactly. And I think that's a huge thing for me personally, like coming up, like as a young player, you don't have the weight of the team as much then, so it's almost like a bit of freedom, and you can use that freedom to set personal goals, and as you get older, of course, you want to win championships and things like that where you have a bit more responsibility, but
Yeah.
you can kind of have that freedom as a young player to focus on yourself a bit more.
Yeah. No, I think that's good.
Hmm.
Um, so okay, you signed at 18. You said you're born in LA.
Hmm.
You move out here to Kansas City, so not a complete child, but not
Hmm.
an adult.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was that transition like going into a new school, going into a
Hmm.
professional club? Now, granted, I know you were with IMG for a little bit. I'm sure we're at a top club there in LA before
Hmm.
transitioning, but none
Yeah.
of an MLS caliber, right? And I think
Yeah.
Swope is a phenomenal facility for an academy team to just kind of have. Um, so what was that like at 16, 17, picking up, moving to Kansas, right? Which from LA, I'm sure you were like, what?
Yeah, I looking back, it's like you're crazy, like, but honestly, in the moment, it was a hard first transition, but like once I got going and I was at a level then where I felt really ready to do it.
Hmm.
I had gone to Seattle for
That's
6 months
right.
to be with them when I was 16 for GA Cup and some tournaments, but I just didn't feel fully ready for
Hmm.
that just as a young kid. But yeah, coming to KC, it kind of clicked and the guys were really cool. One, but yeah, I think for me, my advice on moving when you're young, I think it's a good idea if you really believe in yourself and you're really passionate about it. But you got to give yourself some time to adapt and then show your stuff eventually.
Yeah.
Um,
So while you were here, talk to us about how you adapted to the barbecue situation. And can you tell us which one is your
yeah.
favorite? Do you have a worse?
I used to go to the Joe's gas station
Okay, the OG,
for
the OG.
gas.
Oh, just for
Or
gas. Look at you.
no, but
Okay.
it was also my favorite. You get the Z-Man sandwich and I think you're good to go,
There we go. All right.
in
So
my
Oklahoma
opinion.
Joe's. They've now changed the name to KC Joe's.
Okay,
Kind of disappointing, but
that is
it is what it is, right?
classic
Not
spot.
not too many Z-mans though before matches or while you're in
No, no,
season.
no.
Probably probably horrible. Your nutritionist would be going crazy
Yeah,
at the team.
yeah, no
Um,
chance.
so Wilson, when you're out there, you're playing, you've got 21 other people right around you. Everyone's chirping, the ball's moving, the fans are yelling.
Mhm.
What brings you the most joy when you're out there? How do you kind of tune out? I won't say everything because you want to hear your teammates, but
Mhm.
how do you tune out the unnecessary noise and just focus on what is the task at hand?
Yeah, I think that's part of a big part of the process becoming a pro because you're used to your academy games with no real noise, not that much pressure. Yeah, there's pressure with MLS Academy, but I think it's more internal,
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
but with fans and I think it's a progression, you got to give yourself time to adapt to the pro game and get used to, I remember my first game with SKC, I got like I was playing like 10 minutes and I still got tunnel vision when I got on the ball. So you give yourself a little bit of time to adapt to the lights and the fans, but I think where I'm at right now, it's kind of I've been doing it for a while now, and I feel like it's a place where I just naturally enjoy because right now this season we're playing amazing soccer at home, especially, and our fans are fantastic. They've shown love for so many years. So I mean, it's a mutual relationship at this point. But I think if you're first get into it, you have to introduce yourself in a way and try and show your quality. after you adjust.
Yeah. No, and I think that adjustment period is so important with most things in life, right? But especially as a player, you're coming in from a different, environment, a different upbringing. The weather could be different, the food could be different, the culture, coaches, right?
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff really does, as simple as some of it sounds, really does start to add up and take a mental toll, especially when, as a professional athlete, you're expected to perform at the peak level of athleticism at every moment. So,
Yeah.
in order to do that mentally, you can't have too many things bogging you down or whatever, because that all has an effect on the outcome, which is your play. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that you bring up some good points on adjusting and maybe the levels that it takes before you get to like the ultimate pro Chilson Harris vibes. Before that, you gotta understand how to funnel out the noise, how to
Yeah.
deal with the groupies, how to deal with scoring all the goals, how to deal with player of the months and all of that. So
100%.
yeah, I
100%
get that.
takes time.
So you mentioned the season this year, right? Quick side notes going well. You just won essentially the regular season.
Mhm.
Um, you said the Players Shield, Players Cup,
Yeah, the player shield.
Players Shield. So what is that? What's the mindset and what's the vibe like with the team when in the locker room, right? I feel like
Yeah.
the locker room is such a fun part of the game, and that's where the guys are hanging out.
Yeah.
That's where you become the closest. So
Oh yeah.
what's the vibes like there around the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most important things in building a good team is having a good locker room, and I think our coach Danny Cruz prioritized that number one before anything else, and I think it's super important. And we have a great group of guys that want to be better every day and want to help each other be better. And I think it's just taking responsibility for yourself and taking the responsibility for others is what drives us. But yeah, I mean, so many good stories this year,
Yeah,
so many good times as a group. I think we'll definitely look back on this year um, fondly, but with the
after the
mindset,
trophy, after
yeah,
the
yeah,
trophy.
100%. And yeah, exactly. To that point, like, we got this first trophy, but if you asked anyone in that locker room, I don't think they're satisfied yet, and they want to get a third star. So I think
Yeah.
that's priority number one right now. But we're happy with where we're at right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think I say this, and because I've coached, I haven't won any trophies on the professional level, but as a youth, high school, all of that. And the one thing about winning trophies is like it's always fun. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like that feeling is always the same. Like we came
yeah.
here, we're the best.
Oh
Give me
yeah.
my stuff, let's go.
No, 100%. I think for me, that was what drove me,
Yeah.
even if it meant nothing, like
Yep.
Cal South State Cup or something,
Hey, I won a
get,
trophy.
getting a medal or scoring a
Yeah.
goal, those are two of my favorite memories with soccer. So,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
I think you chose the right position for those severe memories.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, all right. So we've talked about it, right? You're 24, signed your first pro contract at 18. So that gives you about 6 years in the game. Um, what has it been like balancing everything, right? You're in school, so like there's that part, you want to have a social life then. There's prom, there's graduation, there's college spring breaks, there's all of these things that like normal kids and people at your age have done or are doing. And here you are on TV, right? And here comes, Wilson Harris subbing in for SKC in the 68. Um, so how have you been able to just kind of balance all of that stuff and still just keep your head on straight, right? And keep your feet grounded.
Yeah, I mean, back to the locker room point, I think I've been lucky enough. I've heard, nightmare stories about locker rooms, but I've been lucky enough with SKC and um, Louisville that I've had two great locker rooms where I've made such good friends,
Yeah.
and we're going through the same things and we can relate. It's hard to relate to, I still have many close friends back in LA, but it's hard to relate to, people for the most part when, they can go out on a Friday or they
Yeah.
can go to prom. I was my senior year I was homeschooled, like I wasn't doing I was online, sorry.
Yeah.
Um so there was no problem,
Right. Right. And
and I
that's
was
a
cool with that.
different priority. Yeah, it was a different
Yeah.
focus for you at that age than other people.
Yeah, I was cool with that. I felt like in the back of my head, like, it'll be worth it, that I'm doing what I love and it's just like I've always looked at my life as an adventure and it's something I think that keeps me going
Yeah.
because, you're gonna have ups and downs, but I think for me personally, it's worth it for the highs.
Yeah. Well, and if anyone's listening or if you are with a special someone, I think a date idea is a prom. I think that's how we
That is
that's how we
that's
set
a
it up.
great shout.
You know, I'll just throw that out there. Uh,
Yeah.
so, all right. So, talk to us. We said you signed the contract. You've done that twice. You've subbed in. You've done these things as a professional player. But what was your first like, oh shit, pro moment? Like where you're like, dang, this is it.
Um, Shoot.
Was it buying the first car? Was it
Uh,
telling mom and dad that you're not taking the trash out this time? Like, what? What
I
was that
think
moment?
I've had a couple oh shit moments. I think it was I got the taste for the pro life when I, subbed in for Swope for my first time and the bright lights are in my face and
Hmm.
it's just like a young kid doing what he loved and so excited to be on TV and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think signing my homegrown contract with Sporting was a pretty awesome moment for me because I truly felt like I earned it, and felt like, really rewarded for my efforts. So it was probably the proudest moment of my career so far.
Okay. Um, so with that, we've talked about some of these moments. We've talked about um different peaks and you have a profession unlike most where it's on TV, right? People come to see it for entertainment. So thus a lot more people know who you are, right? When you
Mhm.
have a bad day in the office, people know.
Mhm.
When, I have a bad day in the office and I'm just on my Excel sheet, luckily I can keep that to myself, right? And it doesn't get out there. But talk to us about what's like the the largest misconception that you think people may have about professional athletes?
Mhm.
Like granted, and we're talking about this relatively, right? If we're have Patrick Mahomes next to us, like he can't go to Whole Foods or like
Yeah.
out of his house ever.
No,
Um,
100%. I think
but
for
what are some things that like people may think is true and it's not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for the most part, people look at pro athletes and think, oh, they have the best lives, ever. And
Yeah.
kids want to be pros, and rightly so, because the good moments are so good. But not all of us are Patrick Mahomes. Not all of us are Cristiano Ronaldo's, where you're getting a hat trick every weekend. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ups and downs to it based on your personal performance. And for me, I think it's just staying steady in between that, because you can get stuck on a high or you can get stuck on a low, and I don't think either one really helps you in the long run.
No.
I've seen my consistent progression when I stick to the process of staying consistent with training, being disciplined, with sleep and working on things that I think I need to work on and get better at. So I
Yeah.
think staying steady is most important, and understanding that it's not going to be easy. It's
Yeah.
not, not everyone's Cristiano.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So okay, we're talking about this stuff. We're talking about just this lifestyle, but let's kind of come back a bit and let's maybe humanize you some. Are there any hobbies? What do you do for fun? You get home from training,
Yeah.
coach was riding you hard. It was a high intensity training and you just want to freaking
Yeah.
unwind and kick it. Are we
No,
playing
I
the
mean,
guitar? We
yeah, I
Fortnite?
mean,
What are we doing?
I do play a lot of video games with some of my
Okay.
buddies from KC, John Pulskamp, Tyler Freeman, and Brooks Thompson and Michael Orschlin.
Okay.
Uh,
So Tyler
we
Tyler will be a guest on one of these episodes here.
Oh yeah,
So yeah.
you gotta get them on.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I'll do that late night, but usually try and get in bed, try and get 8 hours of sleep or so. But I have a good teammate on my team, Aiden Morris. He's kind of into like he started book clubs at multiple clubs he's been at. So
Yeah.
I've been going to coffee after training, reading with him.
Listen, look at this, man. The
Dude, it's a
philosopher.
nice
Look at this, so sophisticated.
dude. We're throwing a
Goodness.
vibe at the coffee shop,
There we go. There we go.
reading, you know. Yeah, I think it's a healthy thing for me just to, you can get better in different ways, and I really like it. It's calming, and I think it's good for your mental for sure.
Yeah. So what things looking back in your career, let's say starting around Seattle time frame, little before-ish, right? Little after. Is there anything looking back on that I won't say regret because I don't like using that term regret, but that
Mhm.
you might have done differently or maybe waited a little longer or did something a little sooner that you think would have had an impact on where you are now?
Yeah, I think there's moments after I had a good season with Swope in 2019. Maybe could have tried to go to Europe then. I was a free player, but I went with Sporting and I learned so much there, and I really don't regret it. But that's just another avenue that maybe would have been worse or maybe
Yeah.
would have been better. But
Yeah.
I can't really complain too much. It's been a fun ride.
You could have been over there with Busio, maybe,
Yeah.
kicking it with him. I hear
I
he's having
mean,
an absolute ball.
yeah,
Uh,
dude, Venice is a bit different. I would have been up in like I would have been in like Iceland.
yeah, right, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, I'll take
Uh,
Venice any day.
yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, is Europe something that is kind of off the table? Is it something you're keeping open? If it comes, are you MLS, USL till you die kind of guy? What's
Uh,
where's the vibe?
I do have a lot of love for MLS and USL, but yeah, I think I'm very open, if it's the right situation and it seems like, a club is invested in using me and in developing me. Of course, I'd be open to Europe. I think it would be a great experience, just personally, and
Yeah.
then on the field as well. Learn different style. But yeah, I'm open to. I just want to see how far I can take it, and whether that's back to MLS or Europe, we'll see. But I'm happy with where I'm at right now.
Right. Just wherever life takes you is where you'll go. What's the relationship like with your agent? Is it the Tom Cruise show me Jerry Maguire show me the money? Um is it like that? Is it someone you've never even met? I know there's a
It's exactly like Jerry Maguire.
there we go. I love it. I love it,
Nah,
Wilson.
nah, he's a good guy. It's much more personal.
More professional, much more
Yeah,
professional.
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
But yeah, great relationship. He works his ass off for me. I'm really happy.
And what does that look like with you? You're an academy player. You then sign with the pro team. Is
Mhm.
it like U18s? You get to a certain point, Roomba calls you in. I'm sure was it John Perry was the academy director then, or was it
Yeah,
kind of in
JP,
that? Yeah,
JP.
JP was there. So they call you in the office. They're like, "Hey, kid, you're about to make it. Here's a list of agents. Here's a list of people to stay away from. How does the agent thing work for you? Like how do you get
Yeah.
that level?
I've been through a couple of agents actually. So I signed with my kind of, I guess you could say, childhood LA agent,
Okay.
that had been interested in maybe taking me to Europe when I was 18. So I was at KC, and then I signed with, it was YMU at the time.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but I've been through a couple of agents. I was with Stellar, and now I'm with Sean Higgins at Pro FC.
Okay.
But yeah, back then it was more like, yeah, this is a good deal. Like, let's get it done. And I
Yeah.
was, 18, ready to
Let's do it.
go.
Now, did you buy a car with the first contract? And it's okay if it's a Toyota Camry because I know a lot of the guys, those Camrys
No,
look really nice now.
I just last year paid off my Tiguan that I've had for years. So that's
That's
a
an
proud
adult
moment
moment.
for
That's an
me.
adult
So
moment right
I've
there.
been, yeah, exactly. So I did not splurge really. I guess
Good.
the one time I splurged was when I saw some of the SKC guys at Neiman Marcus buying LV and shit.
Yeah, that will do it to you. Those
I
those
got some
match
shoes.
day match day freaking pictures, right? The swag is important.
Yeah, I was like, they're in Neiman Marcus in Arizona on an off day. I was like,
Like I'm
right
in
out there, get some
Chipotle.
shoes.
Wait a
Yeah,
second. We're not the same here. So
but
so we'll
it's
so we're gonna get ready to wrap up here, right?
sounds good.
I want to know if you have any advice, twofold, that you
Mm,
would give the younger you,
mhm,
you being in the position you're in now. What advice would you give the younger you in order to get past where you are now?
mm. That's a good question. Um, I'd say stay patient, stay consistent, and you're already ready to score 20 goal season. So just believe in that.
20
I
goal
think,
seasons
yeah, I think
for life.
if I went into when I was 18, went into pro years like that, I think it would have, you know, maybe I wouldn't get 20 goal season, but maybe I'd
But
get just
that's your mindset though. I
exactly.
look okay. And then what advice would you give the kid that is not you, that maybe is not scoring 20 goals a season,
Mhm.
but is still wanting to play at the collegiate level, maybe make the high school varsity team, the academy team, whatever that is? What can you tell that kid who is maybe unsure if pursuing it is worth it or if going home and just calling it quits is worth it?
Yeah, no, I think you got to be at a certain point, you got to be honest with yourself and look at your game and see what you have to work on. You know, I see a lot of kids that are like, "Oh, I'm not playing, like I don't know why." I've always felt like just look at your game like you have to be maybe brutally honest with yourself and then turn that into a positive where you're
Mm-hmm.
working on yourself, you're getting better every day, and you're training your butt off to, start or score goals,
Yep.
and that comes back to just staying consistent in the process and hopefully finding joy in that.
Yeah. I think discipline separates people from being great and from being average, right? Is waking up doing the same thing, being consistent with whatever it is you want to do. And it's not you're not going to make the mile in one step, right? But every
Yeah,
step you freaking take, you just get closer and closer.
100%,
So
100%.
I love it. Well, Wilson, man, that's all of the questions I have for you. This actually went by super quick.
Yeah,
Probably one of the fastest. It's the same time, but it just went by very fast.
Thank you so
Um,
much, Brian. I appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Anything you want to leave the listeners with before we close out?
All good. All good. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to the No Stress Midwest podcast. We had Wilson Harris on of Louisville City. They're going to go on, let's hope, win a USL championship, see this man win a trophy, maybe go on a prom date with this special someone. We'll see how it all turns out. Thanks for listening, everyone. Cheers.